Questions and comments? Question Kimaltar, the Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Government House Leader.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. With respect to SDTC in itself, I think it's important to recognize that when the allegations were made and the department was made aware of it, that there were significant actions that were taken, whether it was the freezing of new funding to the separate independent inquiries, not one but two of them. The government's already been clearly on the position of supporting what the Auditor General has said. We've had numerous meetings at standing committees on it. Yet what we find ourselves in is something that's causing the Auditor General and the RCMP to feel uncomfortable because the Conservative Party wants to be the data collection agency for the RCMP and have that information gathered and just handed over to the RCMP. So that whole issue of the independence of our judiciary system is being called into question. Does the member not have any concern whatsoever with that fact?
The Honourable Member for Cumberland Colchester.
Thanks very much, Speaker, and thanks to the Parliamentary Secretary for that question. You know, when you begin to look at this actual problem, I think it's very simple that for my friend who owns a company, you know, if they're wrongdoing inside the company, I would say that it would be in his best interest to gather all that documentation and hand it over to the RCMP to allow them to make that appropriate decision to say, had wrongdoing actually happened? And when you hear some of the testimony of whistleblowers here, you know, whistleblowers have said, bring in the RCMP, and if they do an investigation, they find something or they don't, the public would be happy with that. The public needs to understand what happens. And that behooves us here in this place, that we allow those folks who are able to do it. When you here's some other whistleblower testimony. Just as I was always confident that the Auditor General would confirm the financial mismanagement at SDTC, I remain equally confident that the RCMP will substantiate the criminal activities that occurred within the organization. So as you begin to hear these statements over and over again, what we're asked to do, in my estimation, is to say, let's shine the light, the best disinfecting in the world, sunlight on these happenings, which clearly have a flavor of mismanagement and perhaps criminal wrongdoing, so that then the public gets to hear the entire story and not be left wondering where the $500 million of taxpayer money at least is gone, with perhaps, as you look at the numbers, perhaps all the way up to $800 million worth of taxpayer money. I personally think that that's a lot of money, and when you have that opportunity to understand where the money has gone, and you hear some more of the testimony of whistleblowers, the true failure of the situation stands at the feet of our current government, whose decision to protect wrongdoers and cover up their findings over the last 12 months is a serious indictment of how our democratic systems and institutions are being corrupted by political interference. It should never have taken 2 years for the issues to reach this point, and what should have been a straightforward process turned into a bureaucratic nightmare that allowed SDTC to continue wasting millions of dollars and abusing countless employees over the last year. Now, that's from whistleblowers. So thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and certainly to take more questions related to this terrible, terrible situation.
I thought the honourable member still had speech time. Questions and comments, the honourable member for Brandon Souris.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I just want to ask my colleague, I want to thank him first for his great presentation on this privileged motion from our colleague from Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Island, and Rideau Lakes, and to my colleague from Barrie Innisfil for his presentation today as well, talking about the alleged failure to produce documents pertaining to the Sustainable Development Technology Canada project that the government has brought forward with the people that they've appointed to that board. And I just listened intently to my colleague here from Cumberland Colchester, yes. And I want to thank my colleague from South Shore St. Margaret's as well for his work in this as well. This has been about a year and a half in the making to get it to this point. And I want to say that it's a travesty that the witnesses that came forward weren't able to provide the documents and the requirements that were asked for of them. And I wonder if my colleague could just expand on the proportion of these scandals compared to other scandals, the many other scandals that this government has had since 2015.
The honourable member for Cumberland Colchester.
Well, I want to thank my colleague very much for his intervention, and knowing that that the scandals continue on and on and on, and I'll say right out loud that many may find this shocking, but I did read Jody Wilson-Raybauld's book, which of course began at this time with the SNC Lavalin scandal and the pressure that the Prime Minister put on an Indigenous woman who was the first Minister of Justice and Attorney General here in Canada, who it appeared, certainly from her book, was poised to do very good work on behalf of Canadians. I'm not entirely sure why this set the Prime Minister off and made her very unwelcome in his cabinet. As we look more closely at some of the things related to STTC, just one comment, if I might, from another whistleblower, which I think is always quite fascinating. I think that the current government is more interested in protecting themselves and protecting the situation from being a public nightmare. And they would rather protect wrongdoers and financial mismanagement than to have a deal with a situation like this STTC in the public sphere.
And we are out of time.